This is your boy CK, Managing Director of Bitcoin Magazine. I am extremely excited to have and host such a fantastic panel of movers and shakers in the Bitcoin space. We're here to talk about the Bitcoin circular economy. We're going to ask each of these gentlemen about what that means. To me, it means that you can live within Bitcoin. If you own Bitcoin, Bitcoin is your money. You never have to exit Bitcoin in order to do what you need to do to live. I know that's a pretty rudimentary answer. I'm going to give each of these gentlemen an opportunity to answer with that, as well as go deep in how their individual companies are furthering the effort of Bitcoin mass adoption. So I guess let's just go from left to right. I'll start with you, Matt. Why don't you introduce yourself and then chime in on what is the Bitcoin circular economy to you?
Sure. I'm Matt Ahlborg. I work with BitRefill. I've studied a lot of emerging market utility use of cryptocurrency over the last few years. The Bitcoin circular economy to me is an individual willing or able to live off cryptocurrency. And not only that, but for the products that person is purchasing, you're purchasing products from a front-end retailer. But is the retailer paying their back supplier in Bitcoin? Is the back supplier paying the manufacturer, et cetera? We're a long way away from that, but at BitRefill, we've seen a couple hints in that right direction. So happy to talk about that.
Fantastic. Well, that's definitely what we're going to talk about. Next, I have the CEO of BitPay, Tony Galippi. And Bitcoin's 12 years old, but BitPay is 10 years old. So I can't think of someone who has been a part of pushing the Bitcoin economy further more than Tony and the team at BitPay. Tony, why don't you introduce yourself and talk to us about the Bitcoin circular economy?
Sure. Thanks, Christian. I'm Tony Galippi. I'm a co-founder of BitPay. And we see the concept of a circular economy as being self-sustaining. Right? Can you conduct all the economic activity that needs to be done, in Bitcoin, in a new currency, right? And that means a person-to-person payment. Well, we did that in 2009 between Satoshi and Hal Finney. But then you've got person-to-business payments, right? Can you spend your Bitcoin at a business? That's something that we help with. Can a business use that Bitcoin to pay one of their vendors or suppliers, right? We can also help with that. And then can a business use Bitcoin to pay its employees, right, through payroll? And then you created a full circle. And these are interesting ideas, and whether you try to do it in a certain pocket, a city like Miami or some others, or you try to just do it globally because Bitcoin is global, we'll remain to see which one works out the best. But we see a huge opportunity for Bitcoin, and we're building the tools to make that happen.
Fantastic. Well, again, y'all have been pioneering this for a long time, and I'm excited to dive into your impressions on how to keep furthering this effort. Next, let's go to Will Reeves, the CEO of Fold app, one of the coolest apps in this space. Why don't you introduce yourself and talk about the circular economy?
Hey everybody, I'm Will. We run Fold, got the full Fold team here. We're all about earning Bitcoin on everything. So a banking experience that lets you earn Bitcoin when you spend, when you save, and a lot more coming. But circular economy to me is getting paid in Bitcoin, corporate treasury in Bitcoin, saving in Bitcoin, spending in Bitcoin, paying off vendors in Bitcoin. It's the full cycle. And I think a lot of people on this stage are doing a good job pushing that forward, but we still have a long way to go.
Definitely. I mean, if you were to step back, Bitcoin circular economy is hyper-Bitcoinization to some degree, whether it's local or global. Next, Alex from Loli, the co-founder, CEO. Why don't you talk about what Loli is doing and how you all are furthering the circular economy?
Let's go. How's everyone doing? Good. The energy here is amazing. You guys have done an incredible job. So just good to be here. My name's Alex. I'm the CEO and one of the co-founders of Loli. We've created a Bitcoin rewards application. We are both a Chrome extension and a mobile app. We give you free Bitcoin when you shop at over 1,000 merchants. What the circular economy means to me is both consumer and merchant adoption. If we're going to have this inevitable hyper-Bitcoinization future that I think we all want, we need both to adopt Bitcoin. Right now, merchants don't want to accept Bitcoin. Consumers largely don't want to pay with Bitcoin. And until we get there, we need to incentivize both parties to get into Bitcoin in an easier way. So what we've done is we've brought consumers into Bitcoin by giving them rewards that have gone up over time, clearly. And then we give merchants the incentive to work with us and give Bitcoin back as an incentive for loyalty marketing.
Fantastic. Thank you for that explanation. So my first question, I want to direct it to Tony. Like I said, Bitcoin's 12 years old and BitPay is 10 years old. BitPay has been a part of pushing Bitcoin forward and allowing and enabling people to be a part of the Bitcoin circular economy almost from day one. I know one of the key features that was important for that was merchants accepting Bitcoin and immediately turning it to fiat, something that they're comfortable with, US dollars in their bank account. I'm just kind of curious, like as BitPay has been pushing more and more adoption, getting more and more impressive clients, has that behavior shifted? Have merchants actually started valuing Bitcoin more over time? And yeah, I guess I'll hand it over to you, Tony.
Sure, yeah, great question. So when we first started, a lot of companies were still scared of Bitcoin, but we made it easy for them where they didn't have to take any risk, right? They could add Bitcoin to their website as a payment option. Maybe they take credit cards, they take PayPal. We give them all the tools to add Bitcoin as a payment option. And we would just convert it for them and send it to their bank account so they didn't have to worry about it. But over time, they're starting to understand, hey, this is actually something, right? They're engaging with the customers that are using Bitcoin. And a lot of times, these are new customers that they've never had before, right? And so just through getting to know their customers and customer support, they realize that, hey, there's actually something here. So can a business, an e-commerce business, for example, use some of the Bitcoin that comes in and maybe pay their web hosting bill, right? Pay their lawyer, pay their accountant, pay their WeWork co-working space, right? WeWork is one of our merchants. So if you have space with them, you can pay in Bitcoin. So we're starting to see more and more of that as we get more merchants into the ecosystem.
Would you say that's fair to say that holding Bitcoin on your balance sheet is becoming more mainstream amongst corporates?
You're starting to hear about it more and more. It is still quite difficult from an accounting perspective. The accounting rules are not very favorable. You can't market to fair market value, so you have to do some weird stuff. And then also the tax treatment of Bitcoin also makes it a little bit difficult. So when we look at the payments that we do, in a given year, we actually do about 1 million individual transactions. And we do about $1 billion a year in payments, which means that our average payment value is $1,000. So people are not really using Bitcoin to buy a cup of coffee. They're using it for larger value purchases. And you can see it. Some people will buy televisions, vacations, cars, boats, planes. But they can also buy business-to-business things that they need, right? You pay your law firm bill, your accounting bill. That's a pretty serious sum. So businesses are starting to use it more, and I think you're starting to see some lawmakers and policymakers start to understand Bitcoin a little bit better and how it's used. It's not just a speculative property trading instrument. People are using it as a currency. And I think you'll start to see the laws and the treatment change so that if you want to account for it as a currency, just like you would account for euros or another one, you would be able to.
All right, that's a fantastic insight, and something I feel like I already knew anecdotally, that Bitcoin's mostly used for larger purchases, and there are some hurdles to making it more and more friendly from a regulatory perspective for maybe smaller purchases. I'm actually kind of curious to hear from Matt. I know that BitRefill has been working with a lot of other businesses and are starting to see advantages in using Bitcoin just for a B2B perspective.
Yeah, so BitRefill is a platform where you can take crypto and purchase gift cards, mobile top-ups, we do bill pay, etc. in over 150 countries. So we have suppliers of these products in many, many different countries around the world. And in terms of the Bitcoin circular economy, I feel like personally, it's going to start in the places with financial restrictions first. Those are the types of people who have a reason to hold Bitcoin beyond speculation, beyond an investment. They acquire Bitcoin to solve a problem in their daily life. We see that every day on BitRefill, and we do have a lot of the big purchasers come to us, hundreds of dollars purchases, thousands. But we also do have a lot of micro purchases, spending 80 cents to top up your phone for a few days in Nigeria or something like that. So in a couple of countries, we actually, very exciting to me, I don't know if we're going to be able to pull it off just yet, but we have a few suppliers in Argentina and Nigeria who it actually would benefit them for us to pay them in Bitcoin instead of US dollars or euros. If we send a wire transfer to them with US dollars, they're not going to be getting a good exchange rate for that. We get less product, we have to raise our prices. But if we can convince them to accept Bitcoin, and then they can liquidate that Bitcoin locally for the local currency, we can give a lot better prices to our customers. And so that's a little bit of a trickle of a hint that we can start seeing this circular economy go from like a B2C to even a B2B. And I think that is really a seismic shift if it can really start to develop that way.
So I want to shift to B2C and speak to the two gentlemen on my right. But before we do that, I want to give either of you two an opportunity to chime in on like this B2B conversation. I guess, Alex, do you have anything to kind of add to what Matt's saying?
Yeah, so I think we've been with our last company, it's a company called Cosmic, and we built this e-commerce gateway. And our first conversations with those merchants to accept Bitcoin in 2014, and were just entirely different than what we're seeing and probably what you guys are seeing today. Merchants like, won't say which merchants, but major Fortune 500 merchants, they didn't know what it was. And then once we would teach them about Bitcoin, remittance networks weren't set up. They were questioning the high volatility of Bitcoin. And so now these same merchants that are now our partners again today, now they're really excited. Now they're asking questions about like, how do we accept Bitcoin? How do we accept stable coins? How do we give more Bitcoin back to incentivize all of our users to shop more? So the incentives are there. Merchants are coming. The B2B side is thriving, I think, as all of us can see. And that's a huge part of Bitcoin adoption.
Awesome. Will, do you have anything to add there as well?
I think that's it. I mean, you have to imagine merchants, enterprise are just like everyone here. We're all learning how this works. There's an adoption cycle. It's slower. And I think the products that win are the ones that are able to approach them in a way, not direct, full frontal Bitcoin treasury, Bitcoin payments, but ones that have clever, creative ways, which I think everyone is doing here on this stage. And ultimately, it's appealing to what they want, which is more customers, more engaged loyalty. And if you're able to build something that hits on that, you're going to win, and they will ask you to take to the next step. So
Bitcoin's going from a risk to potentially an advantage nowadays, yeah?
Oh, if you're not offering Bitcoin rewards or support in some way in the next year or two, you're going to have a problem acquiring new customers.
All right. Well, I mean, at Bitcoin Magazine, I can definitely second that testament and sentiment. I think Bitcoin's an advantage, and it helps us with our contractors internationally, for sure. So I can agree with pretty much everything that all of you said. I want to send it back to Alex. I've been so incredibly impressed with Loli. My wife here is in the front row, and I got her onto Loli pretty early on. And, really, y'all built the first product that made sats as a universal rewards point a thing, and I think that that's a really big deal. So I want to give you an opportunity to just kind of talk about sats as a rewards point and how that's disrupting the current cash back, points back system.
Yeah, great question. And thank you for using Loli. I appreciate you. Hopefully you're doing the daily stacks okay, good. Great. So it's a really good question. So for those of you who don't know, my team and I, we built a company previously that was acquired by Rakuten. Those of you who don't know, Rakuten, formerly known as Ebates, biggest cashback company in the US and many parts of the world. So we got to be very familiar with the cashback, rewards, couponing space, and it's a massive business. And when we were there, we saw this customer that was just obsessed with getting cash back. They love getting their big fat check, and I always kind of thought, I was like, it's an amazing customer, but it was like laughable that every 3 months they would get this big fat check in the mail, and I was just like, there has to be something better. Being a Bitcoiner myself, and clearly many members of the team being Bitcoiners as well, we were like, this would be the most incredible way to distribute Bitcoin to people in a very, very low KYC way, to distribute Bitcoin to more people, make it Bitcoin more accessible to everybody. And so, we built the app with my co-founder, Matt Center, and we were just off to the races. One of the things that we saw very early on is that people love the price volatility of Bitcoin. It was a feature, not a bug. When they would get these free rewards, they would check their app or check their Chrome extension, check the website every day, every week. People never really did that with Rakuten. When you get $1 in cash back, you get $1. There's no reason to check it. When you get Bitcoin back, it becomes a game. It's exciting. It's a new currency. And natural human behavior, when your money continues to go up over time, you start to ask questions. So we very much, in addition to earning, we also very much care about learning. And so we've had to teach these people over these last 3 years about why Bitcoin is better than points, better than airline miles, better than cash back. And so far, I think we're doing a pretty good job of teaching this next 100 million Bitcoiners what Bitcoin is and why it's so important.
Awesome. Anyone want to react? Anyone want to react to that? Anyone have any comments? No?
I think what he said was fantastic. The price volatility does turn it into a game, and I mean, I'm taking notes over here because, you know, I love the way that you Fold in particular has kind of gamified the experience, and that does increase a lot of engagement, and that matters to a lot of product companies. And so, I mean, it is really good stuff, and I think you're doing great.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I guess very similar theme. Let's pass it over to Will. You know, earning your first Bitcoin is starting to be, you know, the new way that people actually acquire sats. I was just talking to Tony behind stage about, you know, getting a Coinbase account is kind of like getting a brokerage account, and the majority of people don't do that. Like that's almost like a privileged thing to do. So I really love the format that Fold has enabled people to earn Bitcoin. You want to just talk about where that fits into the circular economy and kind of the thinking behind the app?
Yeah, I think Bitcoin as rewards it's certainly going to disrupt the rewards industry, but I think it's the ultimate Trojan horse for disrupting the banking industry. So most banking card networks all are competing on rewards. Bitcoin is the apex reward. And what we were seeing with Fold in the first couple months of launching our debit card, checking account, is that people now have made purchases where the Bitcoin they earned is worth more than the purchase that they made. We're also seeing savings accounts as people starting to save money and they're going to be earning interest in Bitcoin. Suddenly the interest that they earned in Bitcoin is worth more than that they have in their savings. And that's when people start to question the money. What's different about this fiat that I'm holding here and this Bitcoin? That's when you start to subtly bring them down the rabbit hole in a way that I think is going to onboard the next generation, but also does it in a way that's super low risk, engaging, and at the end of the day, it's going to be financially empowering for everyone who's involved.
Amazing. Again, Bitcoin is about financial empowerment, and a Bitcoin circular economy is an economy where everyone is empowered. I think this is a great time to go back to Matt. You know, BitRefill is, for many people who are living on Bitcoin, is a saving grace. It's one of the only ways they can avoid, you know, their fiat banking system. You touched on this a little bit, but can you kind of talk about the P2P, you know, the developing economies and, you know, how having a circular crypto and Bitcoin payments and economy kind of is emerging within those economies?
Sure. Yeah, so we are starting to see the signs of, you know, it sounds very grandeur, but I call it like the rise of the sovereign individual who they may be, what I've seen is they're professional level worker. They live in an emerging economy. They're working for a corporation in the United States or Western Europe. It might be a software developer, and they're a lot cheaper than a software developer in the West. They found out that getting paid in Bitcoin and stable coins is actually faster and a better exchange rate than getting paid with a wire transfer from that corporation in the US. So we have these people who are starting to have the majority of their net worth in the crypto economy. And at BitRefill, we have kind of caught on to that, and we're trying our very best to give them the ability to convert that crypto, which is normally not very liquid in their country, the ability to buy groceries with crypto, to buy electronics in their country with crypto, to do bill pay for the electricity. All of those things have come online to some degree. in some countries on our platform. And the second we bring like a new product offering at a good price point in a particular country, like we're seeing these like sovereign individuals come to us, and I'm analyzing the data. They'll come to us a few times a week. They might buy an Uber ride, then they'll buy groceries, then they'll buy some sort of a Steam card. It's really fascinating to see, and I'm glad that I have that vantage point. So,
Yeah, Tony, jump in here.
Yeah, no, what you just said, it's interesting because in the last year and a half that we've had COVID, pretty much every tech company and every software company has gone remote work and virtual. And maybe that would have happened naturally over 10 years, but COVID accelerated it into 1 year. And you're seeing now companies having a global tech workforce much more than they did before. Right? We just hired a couple of new employees in Eastern Europe, right? And they want to get paid in Bitcoin because it's actually easier. We have a dev team in Argentina that we've had for about 7 years, and we pay them in Bitcoin. To the point where a couple of them who've been taking 100% of their salary in Bitcoin for 7 years, they probably don't need to work anymore because they've been doing pretty well. But we see that there's a big opportunity as workforces become more global. Talk to your HR department. It's extremely difficult to onboard a new employee in a country somewhere. You've got to set up an entity in a big relationship, whereas if that employee will take Bitcoin, it's so much easier. And so at BitPay, we actually have tools for that for businesses, right? It's great because it's the same consistent experience wherever the person is in the world. Give us your Bitcoin address and you can get paid. It's incredibly efficient for companies and for the people being paid. And in many cases, they can actually get more value in their local currency if they get paid in Bitcoin than getting paid a different way.
I love how Bitcoin adoption is driven by utility. It's driven because the customer has an easier time, they have a better exchange rate. Let's just say the merchant or the company that's trying to pay, they have a benefit, less paperwork, less bureaucracy, access to a wider base. It's really kind of incredible to see people aren't just choosing to go to Bitcoin just cause. It's actually fundamentally making their lives better. I'm kind of curious, with that being said, what are the biggest hurdles for the Bitcoin circular economy and Bitcoin as money in general? Let's go to Alex, and I'll have everyone answer that question.
I think there's a lot of FUD that we've seen, especially over the last few months, about energy. We try to dispel that. I think we all try to push forward with Bitcoin education just as much as Bitcoin adoption and earning. I think that it's going to be there's going to be increasingly more people that don't want Bitcoin to succeed. So we have to be louder and smarter than ever to get the message out there. And that takes everybody in this room, telling your boss you want to get paid in Bitcoin, getting your bonus in Bitcoin, using Loli for, office supplies, whatever it is, get Bitcoin into the ether as many ways as possible. And I think we're going to be pretty happy next year if everyone does that.
Yeah, the hardest sats to get are your first sats. After that, the dam kind of breaks. Same question to you, Will.
Yeah, I think we're just getting started. We have so much left to build. The gaps are pretty wide. I imagine in a world with a true circular economy, it's happening entirely on the Lightning Network. And so I think as businesses and companies benefiting on this space, on infrastructure that has been built on open source projects, from other companies building critical infrastructure that we get to benefit and create, wonderful companies on top. We also have, I think we have to build and give back to these as well. And so I think contributing to the Lightning Network, contributing to open source, making sure that we're all keeping up on network upgrades, I think is a critical bit. We're not here to just slap Bitcoin on a traditional company. We're here to change how business is done, how architecture, how new projects are built. And so I think Bitcoin companies we have our users, but we also have this ecosystem and this community that we need to be giving back to and actively contributing to. So.
All right. I think that was some really insightful comments there. So Tony, I want to give the same question to you, but I want to frame it a little bit more for the enterprises. I feel that BitPay has probably done more than any company here in terms of working with more enterprise, more, let's just say, regulatory compliant businesses that have more overhead. Can you just talk about the biggest hurdles and maybe focus on those clients that you're striving to add to the network?
Sure. So we work with some of the biggest companies in the world. They want to get involved in Bitcoin for one reason or another. But this requires an enterprise sales team to go speak with Microsoft and AT&T and some of these companies. And so every one of them is probably initially skeptical. And I think probably every single person that's involved in Bitcoin, nobody saw it and said, oh my God, this is the best thing ever. Everybody was initially a Bitcoin skeptic. Well, this can't possibly work. But very quickly through education, you learn that, wow, this really is the best thing ever. But it's not your first reaction. And it's not the first reaction for companies either. So when you meet with a large enterprise, right, their finance team is going to have questions. Their legal team is going to have questions. If they're in a regulated industry themselves, they may have additional questions. And so this is where, through education and a lot of interactions with them, we've been able to break down some barriers. And some companies, they may have an internal champion that really helps us get it across the finish line. It could be the person from the marketing department, could be the person from the e-commerce department, could be somebody on their product team. But usually, the biggest success is you've got one champion on the inside that will help you get it done. But we're starting to see more and more. Companies are no longer afraid of going to jail for just simply accepting Bitcoin, whereas a few years ago they may have been concerned about it. And we're starting to see more favorable treatment for companies that actually want to hold Bitcoin on their balance sheet. And now you've got a whole list of publicly traded companies that are holding Bitcoin on their balance sheet. They can report it to their shareholders, and it's now widely accepted. And I agree. I mean, I think in the next 10 years, it's going to be a huge leap forward in technical implementation, layer 2 solutions, things to get down to where you can spend Bitcoin on a cup of coffee or an 80-cent phone top-up. We'll get there technically, but the education will also get us there.
So education is a barrier. I've heard that almost 3 times here. Matt, what's the biggest barrier to the Bitcoin circular economy?
Well, they've hit on a lot of them. One of them that I'll bring up is fees. Bitcoin sucks as a payment sometimes. We are building out the Lightning Network as much as possible, but honestly, there has been a lot of struggles with that. And at BitRefill, we accept Bitcoin, we accept some altcoins, and we also have spearheaded a lot of Lightning adoption as well. But Lightning needs to connect to all of the exchanges around the world. It needs to connect to products in the real world. And so I'm waiting for that inflection point where we do start to see that with Lightning, because waiting around for confirmations and paying $2, $3, $4, $5 depending on the price volatility, that's not a good user experience whatsoever. So I think that's a huge problem, and we are working as hard as we can to solve it, but there's a ton of work to do.
Yeah, I can tell you, I was working the store over in the back of the exhibitor hall, and whenever someone paid on chain, I'd be like, okay, I need you to wait here until I get that first confirmation, then I can give you your merch. But if it was Lightning, it was like that. So,
and we do have this zero confirm tech at BitRefill, where you can bring on-chain Bitcoin and you can get a near instant payment, but it's not the best solution still, because it's still costing you money. So hopefully we can build out Lightning a lot more.
All right, so we're almost out of time. I want to have one last question and allow each of these gentlemen to, kind of give their final word. But do Bitcoins get spent? Actually, no, I take it back. I have a better question. Is the Bitcoin circular economy on a healthy trajectory in your opinion? Let's actually go from left to right. So let's start with you, Matt, and then finish with Alex.
Is the Bitcoin economy on an upward trajectory?
Yeah, is it in a healthy trajectory in your opinion? And then can you also close out with your final word and a plug?
Yeah, I absolutely believe that. I think, again, during these bull markets, it is kind of strange, because you touched on the point that, Bitcoin is great when it's useful. Well, during these bull markets, it does become a little less useful. And during the bear markets, things get cheaper and people are working, able to use it a little more. But I feel I am definitely optimistic about the trajectory. I wouldn't be at BitRefill if I wasn't. The next year, keep an eye on us, because we've done really well over the last year. So.
Incredible. All right. Yeah. Tony, is the Bitcoin circular economy on a healthy trajectory, and what are your final words for the audience?
Yeah, I think it is. I think the best analogy that we have is when people started to get online, in the 90s. And it was a gradual adoption, and pretty soon, it was widespread adoption. So Bitcoin's on the same trajectory. I think one of the things that could really jumpstart it is when you've got a local area, such as the city of Miami, that really wants to embrace it and really support it. For businesses to locate here, for Bitcoin to be used, to pay taxes and fees to the city or for the employees, and some of the other initiatives that the mayor really wants. Those are the kind of things that in a concentrated area can really accelerate it. And I think we're going to see more and more of those.
All right. Will, same question.
I mean, I can only speak from my own experience. We had over 250,000 people on our wait list to sign up for our card and checking account. They've spent over $100 million, earned billions of sats, and most of these people is the first Satoshis they've ever earned. And not only that, we support Lightning Network, and we have people fully living on the Lightning Network, spending on Lightning, earning rewards. It's already here. It's just how much what lens are you looking at? So I'm bullish for the present and the future.
All right, Alex, close us out.
I think you look around, you feel the energy, and you feel the trajectory. We've had 6 consecutive record-breaking months. As co-founder of a company, started 3 years ago. It's amazing to watch. We've got merchants reaching out to us to onboard the platform, whereas last 3 years it was doing a lot of outbound. We have consumers coming in the masses. People are spending more. Online is up dramatically throughout COVID. So it's a good time to be in the Bitcoin space.
All right, absolutely. Well, that is it for us, guys. Please, thank you so much for joining the session. Stick around for the next talk. There are other incredible talks outside. Enjoy the conference.